Well, I'm going to get the engine out of Allen's 1650 here. First thing I need to do is drain some fluids. I've already got the long PTO shaft out. There's a video for that. Drain the fuel out of the tank. Boy, if you don't have one of these, I got this one at TSC. It's just a siphon hose. Sure makes quick work out of draining the fuel tanks, at least on tractors. Stuff without the anti-siphoning devices on it. But all you do is there's a little check ball in there. So you just shake until the fuel gets lower in the tank, and then gravity does the rest. I'll get the coolant draining and start disconnecting bolts and stuff. I've got the battery out of it. All important stuff. Now I'm up to pulling out the motor mount bolts, and this is usually the part that frustrates me. Not because it's hard to do. Oliver used two different sizes of engine mount bolts. The front left corner and the right rear corner are on the other side were 9/16 bolts, so it takes a 13/16 head and a 7/8 wrench on the nut on the bottom, and then the other two corners were 1/2" bolts. And this one actually is right. 1/2" bolts there, the 9/16 bolts there. The two corner bolts act as dowel pins. It's a very snug fit, but that keeps the engine in line. Oliver's big mistake was probably not just doing all four corners the same way. That probably takes more precise machining. You only need the two corners to get the engine lined up. All that stuff costs money when you have to have a guy in the factory checking these measurements and stuff. And if you can have two holes that are don't need to be super close, it'll save a few bucks. So anyways, I gotta get these out, and like I say, I'm impressed. It seems more often than not it's just 4 1/2" bolts, and then the bad part is the chain coupler back there is no longer, it can be a little skewed because things can wander around. And that puts more stress on that chain coupler, makes them wear faster. I'm sure it ain't gonna help the PTO shaft where it engages the flywheel, because once again, it's not aligned as good as it could be. So if you end up pulling an engine, this is on the Waukeshaws only. If you end up pulling your Waukesha powered Oliver and you don't have two different sizes of bolts and they're all 1/2", then you need to find some 9/16 bolts to put in those two corners. Well, we're to that moment. Pulling the engine. I am amazed on this one also. The idle bolt, head bolt studs are in the right spot. That's these two here where the threaded part sticks up from the rest of the bolt. And Oliver had this eye bolt. This one's the fine threaded one. Early ones were coarse threaded, and the later ones were fine threaded. That gives you a lifting point, and the reason there's two bolts is the back one is for when the hydropower or over and under, all that stuff is still on. That's pretty much the balance point. And then the other stud is the balance point without that stuff on, just the engine. Just wanted to show that on the 15 and 16 size tractors, you do not have to pull the chain off the coupler to pull the engine out. There is enough room to slide it ahead and get it off from there. Well, she's out. Got the hydropower off. Loosen up the bolts on the clutch here, and boy, it didn't draw away much from the flywheel. So I'm thinking it was about done. Now this side's just about, yeah, just about down to the rivets. This side ain't much better. And that pilot bearing fell out. Not much holding that in, it's turning smooth. The little tabs are missing. There's supposed to be a couple of bolts here with a little tab that overhangs to keep the pilot bearing in its place. Well, I don't think something was set up entirely right. Shoot, you can still see machining marks in the pressure plate. You can see them there. I can't see them because of the glare. That pressure plate doesn't have much wear on it. But the step in the flywheel doesn't seem deep enough. Definitely have to check and make sure that's right. And even the flywheel don't look bad. We might try to switch over to a ceramic clutch, especially since this is going to be a loader tractor. All right. These blind holes here have the dowel pins. And so just to help keep everything lined up, I am going to take my stake punch and pop just to put a mark in there. They're only supposed to go on one way, but I've seen guys do crazy things. It just makes it lining it back up a lot easier when you can just line up the marks. Well, like I see, we'll be putting a new set of sprockets and a chain on there. That's seen its better days. Okay, we got Alan's tractor engine here about ready to start putting the clutch, flywheel stuff back on, and we're draining the engine oil and changing that while we had it out because it's just easier. And I was telling Alan, they used to, on these oil filters, these sock type, they used to write right on them, base pointing down or this end up, and they've stopped doing that, it seems like. And I believe this is a 156 149 AS is the part number. So if you're wondering which end is up, this rounded end goes up because it fits into the housing there like that, and the flat end goes down because then it can seal against this surface here in the filter base. So flat side goes down, round side goes up, and it's got this rounded, basically it kind of, when you pull the bolt down, that crushes against the top of the lid there and seals, or the canister, and seals it so that the oil has to go through the filter. So, all right, we'll get that baby put on, and then we can see about putting a flywheel on, and clutch, hydropower. Filters always come with a new rubber O-ring. Generally they come with two, because there's a couple different applications for that sock filter. So the one that fits in the groove is the right one, and for the Oliver, the wide one is always the leftover one. You don't have to reefer too hard, it's just got to seat down to that rubber. All right, yeah, that's another thing is you can, and this one's got the reinforced washer on top, but you push down or tighten that bolt down too hard, there's a copper washer to seal the top, but you can actually start deforming the can and then it will leak no matter what you do. So it doesn't take a whole lot of torque to get them to seal up, and it's always easier to snug it up a little more than it is to uncrush a can. We're gonna get the flywheel on to help locate it quicker. I punched a mark on this one dowel pin and then put a mark right next to the dowel pin hole there, so it'll be quicker and easier to line up, hopefully. I'll hand the camera off to Alan.
Replace that rear seal.
Yeah, we already replaced that rear seal. So did I get it right? I don't see the mark here, but I do see the mark there, I think. All the bolt holes line up, so that must be right. Well, The bolt holes look good. No.
There's the mark right there.
Yeah, there's the mark. I'm off because I can see this bolt hole ain't quite lined up. And this one ain't quite lined up. They do have the bolt holes just slightly spaced different so that you can't do it wrong, but never say never, because my 270 apparently has the flywheel 180 degrees off. Yeah, the bolt holes lined up much better that way. I believe someone commented about using the hand hammer. Not to do that, but yep, there I am doing it. All right, so now we got to get the hub and put that on. Okay, next thing to go in is the drive hub. These splines in here drive the shaft that drives the hydraulic pump and the PTO, and then the pilot bearing for the input shaft rides there. And we marked it once again. Someone else, I didn't see it through all the dirt. Someone else had marked it before. That's what these are. And then I poked it once right in there. So you can see their mark there and my mark on that one. So we just line up. Let's see. Which one is that? That's the dowel pinhole. There. No, I'm wrong. There, that should be about right. There's my dot. There's that dot. Yeah, so get all the bolts in before you draw it down. Because if they don't go in nice and smooth, then we've got it timed wrong. I don't have the torque set on that yet. So, book says 67 to 69 foot-pounds. See if I can keep it from turning while he's trying to torque without losing a finger. Yeah, there we go. Just like tightening a wheel. You switch sides. Flywheel teeth look ready. Yep. I could just put a wrench on the front. What's the fun in that, right? Voila! All right. Time to put the pilot bearing in. Got a brand new one of those, and that's pretty much just a matter of tapping her into the hole. This was totally missing the little tabs that go over to the pilot bearing there to keep it in place. So we had to improvise and make our own. Yep. Okay, we're using the official driver tool. A 3/4 inch drive, inch and a 13/16 socket. So that we're only driving on the outer edge of the bearing. You don't want to hit the seal, and you don't really want to drive on the inner edge. Well, we had the clutch together, and I just didn't think the fingers had drawn away from the cover very far. And there is a procedure in the book, and you get some key stock like we've done here, and it's in there somewhere. I put a little grease on the key stock. For this type of clutch, it needs to be 0.380 thickness. Different, if you got a fiber clutch, it's a different spec. It's in the Oliver service manual. But by putting key stock in there, it simulates the thickness of the clutch disc. Then you can measure these fingers, their distance to the flywheel surface, which there's a spec for that in the book. Then what we did is just took this piece of metal. I measured how thick it was to subtract that out from the distance. And then took my caliper and once we got that flat across the flywheel, took my caliper across the top of the finger and then turned these nuts until the distance was right. I'll check this one again. Yeah, it feels the same. So, in this case, it was 2.125 inches total from tip of the finger to the flywheel. I've got all three set by backing those nuts off a little bit, so we're gonna restake. Well, they had them welded. Had to break the welds, but we'll stake them so they don't move again. And then we can take it back apart and put the disc back in, and we should be good. It would have worked the way it was, but the lifespan of the clutch definitely would have been shorter. This one's got a stepped flywheel, and I'm thinking this clutch was set up for a flat flywheel. So hopefully I didn't mess it up by doing this, but it's the way it's going to be. All right, going back together again after adjusting the finger height. All right. There, the clutch is installed. Uh-oh.
Sorry about that.
YouTube's going to get us for copyright infringement. All right, we have got the clutch in and adjusted. We have got a new throwout bearing in there. And let's see. It is a bit of a bugger. Let's just say this is the old nut for the back. We didn't help it out any, but it had already been banged up by a previous mechanic. And now we have a new chain sprocket and a new nut. And I know some of you are going to say, well, please rebuild that. And we're just changing out the sprocket. And so I figure I'll save all that stuff for when I actually rebuild one. This one is in good shape. We drained the oil. Oil looked clean. There was nothing on the magnet, so we're not tearing it apart. We're not looking for extra work. So there will be one coming someday when I get one to rebuild, but this one ain't gonna be it. So we just got to marry the two up together now. Okay, guys, guide pins, just the 3/8 bolts with the heads cut off to help kind of line everything up. How's yours starting? Are you not close yet? Mine's,
Not yet.
Oh, we skipped right past mine. It's too high. So I either need to twist the engine. That's up. Whoop. Went too far. There, I got mine.
Needs to go up.
Needs to go up, huh?
Getting there. Almost. Right there.
Right there. That helps. All right, you might have to.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah, it's a little crooked. The front needs to go that way. There, okay. God, it looks even up and down. Okay, that don't look too bad. There, that makes all the difference in the world. Oh, I can feel it's engaged back here. They are married, ready to live happily ever after. Here's our bolts here. If you have happened to be working on your hydropower drive or even over and under, and you're wondering if you got your sprag clutch in right, you should, once everything's engaged, you should be able to turn this way, the same direction the engine goes, but not the other, because then the sprag clutch again engages against the engine. We just stuck 5/8 bolts in the cooler lines that come to the heat exchanger for the hydropower. Alan's getting them out so we can hook his hoses back up there. Clean these up just to get the corrosion off. And they don't matter which way, which one goes where. Basically coolant comes in and circulates through, comes back out, and then there's another part that the oil from the hydropower goes through and exchanges heat. This is something I like to do with clutch jobs. Before I stick them back in, get some big wrench on the lever here. Alan's going to demonstrate. Right now that'll only turn one way because of the over and under. But I will essentially push the clutch pedal down with this and it releases. If I slowly let up, all of a sudden he can't turn. So it works. It works like it's supposed to. Always good to know. A lot easier to check it that way than to have to pull it back out. Well, all that's, we're going to set the engine back in the frame. I'm not going to bolt it down for the moment, but at least it gets it out of the way. Although I guess there's probably not much reason we couldn't. But in case it is in the way of some of our other stuff, we can pick it back out real quick. Okay, got the engine set in, and I'm not gonna bolt it down for right at the moment. Not a whole lot to attach. We got a new wiring harness coming, but that's not here yet, so not much to attach there. We don't want to put the fuel tank in until we have the steering done, and we got to put that steering box back in, but I just checked and it will go in and out with the engine in. So, but this just kind of makes us more stable work base. We got to change the thermostat. We're putting new fan belts on. We're going to change this hose as long as we've got it down like that. So Alan's going to get to work on taking that stuff off. Thermostat's pretty straightforward. 2 bolts here, 2 bolts here. Disconnect this hose and disconnect this line that goes between the thermostat housing and the water pump. And if you're wondering what that's for, that if there's any air trapped in the water pump there, it lets it bleed out. And so when you take this out, blow some air through it or something just to make sure it's clear. That helps keep you from getting a water bubble that keeps the water pump from working and getting airlock and overheating your engine.